But boy, you can get thrown a real curveball today and say, there's something coming at me here that I really don't know what it is. Now, the bone I have to pick with the Surgeon General, and maybe a caveat to go with the bone I want to pick. The bone I want to pick is that a lot of the solutions feel like government solutions. And I guess the caveat there is, well, he works for the government and he's trying to be helpful. But some things like creating new programs or doing this and that don't feel like that's necessarily what's going to help for a lot of parents. Some things do, right? Making sure that you have time off from work when you have kids who are born, new baby in the house, or when you have kids who have challenges, health challenges. I know I benefited from a tremendously supportive work environment. My bosses were great when suddenly we were pregnant with twins, and that comes with, for those of you who've gone through it, come with a lot more doctor visits than a regular pregnancy that can run relatively smoothly. The challenges like that are challenges when we've had other health concerns. So I guess my question is, as I've read through this, I don't know that there's like a government solution to parents feeling more stressed other than, can you do something to reduce the cost of living so that we don't all have to work so darn much to spend more time away from our families? I feel like there will always be stresses with your kids, and there'll always be stresses, especially now as you get to a certain point in life. I mean, I'm in my mid-40s, so you're now dealing with parents who are aging, they're in good health now, but they'll be aging in the next, 5 to 10 years. We'll deal with more and more of that. What you need is time. What you need is the flexibility. So to the extent that the government can weigh in and help make that possible, I suppose. But I think it's one of those things that we always talk about. I think it's really part of the ethos of our state, how much we value the family. And giving people the ability to have more time with family helps not only sort of deal with more of these problems and stressors before they become stressors and problems, but it also helps you deal with them when they do pop up. So the Surgeon General is kind of pointing out, hey, we're going to try to do some things to help out. Some of those things he points out, expanding access to early childhood education. I suppose putting your kids in school earlier does free up some of that time. I think it comes with as many stresses for a lot of families as it takes care of. Creating mental health programs and a mental health crisis hotline for kids and for adults. He just says we have to do more. We have much more to do, however, to make parenting sustainable. He says that means bolstering financial support for families, including child tax credits. Great. That's more money, more time. I understand that. It also means ensuring all parents can get paid time off, as we mentioned. And really, it seems like the solution is give parents more time to be parents. And with that, they won't have as many stresses and be pulled in as many different directions. I recommend taking a look at the piece by the Surgeon General. It's worth a read, and to think through the stresses that parents are under because of the stresses at work, because of the stresses with their kids, because of their stresses with their parents. And we all need to be, I guess, a little more sensitive to the fact that we're all dealing with a lot, and parents are carrying a lot on their shoulders. We're back with more on Inside Sources after this.
The Cougars are back in the business of rivalry.
We have TCU and Baylor, but at the top is Utah and BYU.
The big time in the Big 12 just got bigger.
The Cougars win it! The Cougars win it! And here come the fans!
3 days to the season kickoff. BYU, Southern Illinois. Listen to Cougar Tracks for updates each day. 7:55 in the morning and 5:55 in the afternoon on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
Hey, BYU football fans, come visit your local Macy's grocery store for all your tailgating needs. Macy's has great prices on all of your favorite game day items, like burger patties, made fresh dips, and more. Did you know that your favorite tailgate foods are also now offered through Macy's Catering? Macy's offers a wide variety of catering platters, from smoked meats to wings and even desserts. Catering is available to order online at Macys.com or in-store. So, whether you're having a small or large party, Macy's has you covered. Never miss a deal when you sign up for the rewards program and emails to get the digital ad sent straight to your inbox each week. Come visit your local Macy's grocery store for all of your tailgating needs. Get game day ready with Macy's. Happy shopping.
Well, I've reached another milestone on my journey with soda weight loss. It's 6 months since I hit my goal and let go of 70 pounds of fat weight. And in those 6 months, I've managed to keep it off and still enjoy all the benefits of my journey, including a new wardrobe, a new sense of self-confidence, and most important of all, a set of new habits that are healthy and that will last me for the rest of my life. This is what makes soda so amazing. Of course, it's spelled S-O-T-A. I've now been enjoying the benefits of soda weight loss longer than it took me to let go of the fat in the first place. So think about, where do you want to be in 4 to 5 months? Start the program now and you could be down 50, 60, even 70 pounds by the holidays. Imagine showing your family and friends the new transformed you at Christmas. Check them out for yourself. Go to sotaweightloss.com. That's sotaweightloss.com and see for yourself why soda is #1 for client results and client satisfaction. SOTA stands for, say it with me, state of the art.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up! And call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Plus free home delivery on select smart beds when you add any base. Ends Labor Day. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age. Dating has been so dicey for us, we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age, brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
Why pay for 4 tires when you can buy 3 and get 1 free? It's your locally owned and operated Big O Tires. Now through August 27th, buy 3, get 1 free on select sets of tires. Big O Tires, the name you trust.
Let me ask you a question. You have a best friend? How big would it shock you if somebody told you that your best friend just killed somebody?
911, what's your emergency? Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son, and they're demanding $500,000.
On September 12, 1995, 12-year-old McKay Everett disappeared from his home in Conroe, Texas. It was a crime that shocked the community because the suspect was so unlikely, so unexpected.
Former high-ranking police official, he'd run for sheriff at one point.
Law enforcement personnel were pretty much split down the middle over whether or not he actually did this.
And to this day, McKay's mother, Paulette, still feels that justice was never truly served.
I've asked myself so many times, what in the world happened?
Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, after several beautiful sunny days, wildfire smoke will be blowing into the Wasatch Front again. Second, Utah's national parks were worth almost $2 billion to the state's economy last year. And third, office workers held a retreat on a mountain in Colorado and left one of their colleagues stranded at the top. 84 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Marty Carpenter in for Boyd Matheson with you today. You know, I pop in every so often to fill in for Boyd, or sometimes I sit in for Dave or for Dujanovic in the morning. And when I do that, I get these little like bookmarks that tell me like, oh, hey, when I was here last, what was going on? what were we talking about last time I was on the show? And I get here today, and we're going to talk about something that gave me a little bit of deja vu, and that's Congress getting ready to pass another continuing resolution to keep the government open. I was thinking about, like, what are the last 5? Can I even track them? So I did a little quick research, and hopefully I found a reliable online source because I was trying to track these just in my mind. February 18th, they extended it through March 11th of 2022. Okay, so from February to March. And then they did another one in September of 2022 that pushed it until December of that year. In December of that year, they did one that pushed it from December 16th until December 23rd to get more time. They did one on September 30th of 2023, pushing until November of 2023. And they did one in November of 2023, pushing one until January of 2024, and then it went out to February of 2024. Seems to be kind of a habit, and they're going to do it again. Emily Brooks covers politics in the House of Representatives for The Hill, primarily House Republicans and GOP leadership. Emily, what was the original plan for this stopgap bill, and do you get the same sense of deja vu that I do when these things pop up?
Yeah, well, this budget process that Congress is under has not been followed in decades. So continuing resolutions have been common practice to keep the government open. So I can't say that we're surprised that there's going to be likely another continuing resolution. So leadership on both sides of the aisle has not worked out the details yet, but it's very, almost certainly going to need a continuing resolution. The big battles now are how long will that continuing resolution last? I think almost everybody wants it to last past the election at least, but a lot of more conservative hardline Republicans would like to see it extend into 2025 in order to avoid an end-of-year massive big omnibus that tends to be negotiated by the leaders of both parties in the House and Senate, and also with the thinking that if former President Trump is elected, then he can be the one to sign perhaps more conservative policy budget. And then in addition to that, they're proposing attaching a bill to strengthen, create proof of citizenship requirements for voter registration, attach that to a continuing resolution, and to try and get Democrats to take action on that.
When they pass like a number of stopgap bills, and I enumerated a few of them, from one stopgap to the next, do they get any closer to actually having like a full-on budget, or do they just sort of know that they're going to get to the next time that they can kick the can down the road?
Yeah, well, they do eventually, like earlier this year, that September 30th continuing resolution last year in 2023 just proceeded when former Speaker Kevin McCarthy was kicked out of his position. And then, that perhaps meant that it took a little bit more time for the new Speaker Johnson to figure out how he wanted to handle the budgetary issues. But they did eventually pass funding for the actual fiscal year, which ends on September 30th, but they passed that earlier this year. So now the end of the fiscal year is here again, and the normal process would be to pass 12 different bills that fund different areas of government, but that has never happened in the last 2 decades.
Tell me about the SAVE bill, and why are they attaching it to the funding bill rather than voting for it on its own?
Yeah, well, the House has actually voted for this bill on its own already. They did that before leaving for the August recess. It got support from a few Democrats in the House, but mostly all Republicans. So it's a mostly partisan bill, and one that the White House, President Biden, and Democrats in the Senate would not accept or reject. So, one idea is to, have this be a talking point if they pass it, and then they could say, oh, well, Democrats are the ones who are not actually funding the government out of objection to strengthening the requirements to show proof of citizenship for voting registration. But if you dig into it a little bit more, I was talking to one of the chief advocates of this, Representative Chip Roy of Texas. It's more of a negotiation tactic, I think, to see if they can get that continuing resolution government funding deadline extended into next year, as Republicans in the House Freedom Caucus and other hardline conservatives would like. So perhaps the idea is you get all Republicans on board to pass continuing resolution with this voting bill on it, but then negotiate later and make sure that that funding deadline is extended not to December, but sometime into 2025.
So what are the options for the Democrats then if the bill gets attached to the CR resolution? They're kind of boxed in, or what do you think?
Usually, in Congress can do things really quickly when it wants to. So I would expect nobody wants a government shutdown, really. The threat here is that if this does pass and the Democrats in the Senate do not act and do not accept it, then that threatens a government shutdown. But another option, of course, is for the lawmakers to negotiate differences, perhaps provide some other concessions or other items on that bill, or come to a different agreement on exactly how long the government funding will extend. The end of this Congress, it's unclear who's going to be in control of both chambers of Congress next year. So even though some Republicans would like to see that government funding extend into next year, so maybe Republicans can control both chambers and the presidency, who knows? Other Republicans are saying that's really risky, because what if Democrats end up controlling everything? And that means the budgetary options are worse. So that's the biggest fight that's going to be happening in September.
Well, we will keep an eye on it, and my guess is, Emily, next time I'm here, there's a better than 50-50 chance that you and I are going to talk again about another continuing resolution, because that just seems to be what we do. Thanks so much for your insight on this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Emily Brooks covers politics, primarily the House of Representatives, the House Republicans, and the GOP leadership for The Hill. She's been our guest on Inside Sources. Hey, surprise, surprise, they're going to kick the can down the road again. Go figure. Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk about higher education and specifically accountability in higher education, why that's important and why it's an idea that's picking up some steam. Back with more after this.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomis. KSL's top local story this hour. The Surgeon General says many parents, especially single parents, are experiencing overwhelming levels of stress. The child and family psychologist Douglas Goldsmith here in Utah says parental stress is worse now than it was during the Great Depression.
Even more than the Great Depression, families are under tremendous stress. We need to be mindful that over 50% of marriages are failing.
Goldsmith noted challenges like managing screen time, social media, increased schoolwork, and insufficient planning and sleep are significant contributors to the heightened stress that Utah families are facing. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. New Hampshire had a fatality from Eastern equine encephalitis this week. That's a disease spread by mosquitoes. It's led to concerns about mosquito-borne illnesses generally. Spraying has been stepped up around major cities in the east, including Boston and New York. 30 states have reported cases of West Nile virus. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average has been down all day, right now down 197 points, and the NASDAQ is down right now 166 points. Our KSL weather. Well, we've had a beautiful sunny day, and we would tomorrow, except for that wildfire smoke. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
Here's
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024.
Right now at Wendy's, you can get a small Frosty for $1. And literally everyone is going. The car behind you, going to get a $1 Frosty. The car ahead of you, already had one, going for a second. The person who cut you off earlier, you guessed it, $1 Frosty. Maybe it's all a sign for you to go get one. Just don't cut anyone off. No one likes that person. The iconic Frosty for $1, gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's. Not valid in a combo. Prices may be higher in Alaska, Hawaii, California, and via third-party delivery.
It's me again. And of course, I'm at the annual fall extravaganza at J&J Garden Center in Layton. And what a great time to buy. Right now, all containerized trees, all shrubs, and all perennials are 20% off. You heard me right. J&J's entire inventory of containerized trees, shrubs, and perennials are 20% off their regular price. J&J Garden Center definitely has the best products at the best price and most definitely the best service too. But don't take my word for it. Come experience J&J Garden Center for yourself. Take advantage of their incredible fall tree, shrub, and perennial extravaganza. Take the Layton Parkway exit, Main Street to Gentile, then west 2 miles. You've got to see it to believe it. You really do.
Country grown to your home, J&J Garden Center.
Hi Utah, it's Congressman Burgess Owens. Are you stuck dealing with a federal agency? Need help with a passport, accessing VA benefits? Or is your child seeking a Service Academy nomination? Team Owens has your back. Connect with our remarkable casework team today by calling 801-999-9801 or by visiting owens.house.gov. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PCLaptops.com. I've been advertising with KSL Radio for decades now, and radio works. With all the clutter on social media, radio cuts through all the noise and gets directly into your customer's brain. If you're a small business and want to reach the local audience here in Salt Lake City, KSL Radio is the way to go.
If you'd like to know more about the benefits of advertising with KSL News Radio, email Stephanie Palmer at spalmer@ksl.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Jason Jones.
The double bottom dumper is gone, as is the brush fire, the grass fire, whatever you want to call it, up in Box Elder County. There's no more smoke up there, so we assume that's out. So you're back to just a pretty much fantastic drive everywhere you look along the Wasatch Front. No problems on I-15. The belt route's looking good, and headed up into the canyons, that's also looking pretty clear at this point. Receive 0% for 5 years on the 2024 Tucson or Elantra. When you walk through the doors, you feel like family. At Murdoch Hyundai in Logan, Linden, Murray, or online at murdochhyundai.com. I'm Jason Jones in the KSL Traffic Center.
Look for sunny skies with highs in the 80s through the rest of the week, but starting tomorrow, we could get some wildfire smoke blowing in as well. Right now, 84 degrees and sunny. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Marty Carpenter in for Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources. Higher education. Boy, we've seen the cost of higher education go up, and we have seen people start to wonder a little bit about the value of higher education. That's been a big national debate that's been going on. We've talked about student loan forgiveness, the value of a college education overall, the importance of accountability in higher education institutes for student outcomes is very much in the national discussion. And that all ties back to a frustration I think a lot of people have when it comes to a college education. And that's starting to think about it as, what is the ROI? What is the return on investment in time and money to go to college and get a degree and come out with something where you can go build a career? And for institutions of higher learning and for students, frankly, and really should be for those who are loaning people money to go to school, there's this push to look a little bit deeper and say, all right, so you went to college, you got a degree, your degree was in business, your degree was in information technology, your degree was in underwater basket weaving, whatever you decided to go do, what did you get from that? And how are you doing a few years down the road when it comes to your income? So your ability to pay back any student debt you may have incurred, but your ability to go build a career and support yourself, support a family, contribute to your community. What's the ROI on your investment in higher education? I want to bring in Beth Akers. She is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, more commonly known as AEI, where she focuses on the economics of higher education. Beth has written several books, two that jump out to me: Game of Loans and Making College Pay. Both line up very well with exactly what we want to talk about here today. Beth, thanks so much for joining us on Inside Sources.
Hi, Marty. So glad to be with you today.
So, Beth, with the ongoing national debate about student loan forgiveness and the recent headlines about the Biden administration's approach to handling student debt, a lot of people are thinking more critically about the value of a college education, and I think that's a good thing. But I know in your work you've emphasized the role of data in improving higher education. So can you just explain why having access to great data is so crucial for students, for families, and for educational institutions?
Yes, for sure. So, investing in your college education will be probably one of the biggest single investments that most families or individuals will make. And so, there was a long time, like back when I went to school, where people just didn't talk about ROI in education, and in part because there was no data. And it was kind of like, oh, go out there, just follow your passion, do something, and it'll all work out. And surprise, it doesn't always all work out. And, on average it does. But there are certainly choices you can make along the way that are going to put you on a path where, financially speaking, higher education is not a good investment. And so there's been a huge innovation in that space. During the Obama administration, the federal government started publishing data that still exists today. It's on a website called thecollegescorecard.gov. Anybody can go there and say, I'm looking at this school and this major. It's going to tell me how often students are graduating from that program, how often or what they're earning on average, and if they're paying back their loans. So a tremendous investment. The idea that we would make it blindly without this information was sort of crazy. The data exists today, but I think a lot of people, aren't used to or thinking about making the decision in this way. But we're certainly moving in that direction. And I think the fact that the Biden administration has made such a big deal about loan cancellation has people thinking, is this even a good investment at all? And in fact, it is. A lot of times we're forgiving debts for people who've actually made a good investment in themselves, have a good financial return. But the reality is I kind of agree with you, Marty, that this is a push in the right direction. We get people to be more critical consumers of higher ed and put more pressure on colleges and universities to deliver.
I remember when I was in college and I knew exactly what I wanted to go do, and a lot of people told me that's a really cool field. You don't make a lot of money early on, but if you succeed, you eventually do. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, well, I get it. I see there's sort of like a carrot at the end I got to go get. And then I got my first job offer and was like, oh, that's what they meant by not a lot of money. So I made a decision without a lot of data. And the first data point I got was really eye-opening for me. So how can we better connect higher education outcomes with income after graduation so that students are making more informed choices as they're starting their higher education experience?
Well, I think we need to change the culture about shopping for college. And that's what my book, Making College Pay, was really about. It was empowering students and their families to say, what are the resources and what are the methods that I would use to even think about, choosing a college and a major with this sense of ROI or a return on investment, as the backdrop. And so I think we've got to empower people we used to say and act as if college was the golden ticket to success, and that's not a productive way to think about it. The more granular information that students are using, the better for them as individuals, but also the better for our society, for the entire system of higher education, because it kind of polices the market, right? If we tell everybody, oh, iPhones are just so fantastic, what's going to happen to the price of iPhones? Everybody's going to run out and buy this iPhone because they've been told it's fantastic. And, Apple doesn't have to worry about whether or not it's a good product anymore. And we kind of get this inflation and this market that's, untamed by smart and discerning consumers. So smart and discerning consumers is what we want for sure. The data's out there. The challenge now is getting it into their hands and maybe even changing policy so that we're sort of policing institutions from that direction as well.
The College Transparency Act aims to enhance data collection and reporting on student outcomes. So there are several pieces of legislation being considered in Congress on this issue. One of them is the College Transparency Act. The other is the College Cost Reduction Act. How do you see proposals like this transforming higher education, particularly in terms of transparency and accountability?
I think these would be a huge step forward. So, the data limitations that exist are sort of kind of wonky down in the weeds stuff, but we do need some legislation to pass to make the data that's available better. It would be better for consumers and better for institutions if we can get this restrictions that currently exist lifted so that we could have better data. So legislation that's moving in that direction is definitely a good thing. In addition, the other legislation that we're seeing, particularly from Republicans in both the House and the Senate, are trying to put higher standards on institutions to hold them accountable for what they're delivering. So we've mostly talked about how consumers can make a better decision, to protect themselves financially. But the taxpayer, the federal government, is a huge investor in higher ed, and we're not that hard on colleges and universities when it comes to delivering, for that money. So this new legislation, and I think the direction that particularly conservatives in Washington are pushing, is to say, look, if you're graduating students and they're not earning enough, repeatedly to pay back their loans, or the amount of money they're earning is, makes the price that they paid up front just not worth it, we're going to start cutting back on the grants that are eligible to your students, the student loans that are available to your students, to kind of entice those institutions to buckle down and make sure that they're charging a price or delivering a benefit that makes it worth it for students.
So in your view, how should educational institutions, higher ed institutions, be held accountable for their outcome that they're producing for students, right? It's nice, like if the data is available, that sort of puts it on parents and students to figure that out. But how do we hold these higher education institutions accountable?
So what I really want to see is that the earnings that graduates from institutions report justify the upfront cost. So that basically the amount that students are spending to go there is warranted based on the bump in income they get after they graduate relative to a high school graduate. So people often mischaracterize that position and say, oh, you just want to, advantage the majors and the colleges that deliver people into like super high paying occupations, right? People are sending people to Wall Street or that sort of thing. And that's not true. I think we have to be careful that policy needs to make sure that colleges are delivering enough. And if after that a student wants to choose a major that's not the highest paying, that's great. And we can have policy that supports that opportunity as well. But I think the real low-hanging fruit is that we get those institutions out of the financial aid game that are really delivering poor results for their students year after year after year. And so starting there for sure.
Beth Akers is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, where she focuses on economics and the economics specifically of higher education. Beth, thanks so much for your insight on this. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Marty. Great to talk with you.
All right, when we come back on Inside Sources, we're going to shift to the presidential race and see what the Trump team is doing to slow what appears to be some momentum for the Harris campaign.
Looking for a beautiful and functional upgrade to your home? 3 Day Blinds has you covered. At 3 Day Blinds, our free in-home design consultation makes it easy. A 3 Day Blinds design expert will help you find the window treatment solution that works best for your home's needs and style. We bring the showroom to you with loads of samples giving you an idea of how different fabrics look in your home. Your designer also provides expert measurements and helps coordinate installation. Book your free in-home consultation by visiting 3dayblinds.com. Take control of your window treatments with Motorized by 3-Day Blinds. Whether you're at home or on vacation, you can operate your window treatments with the touch of a button using the 3-Day Blinds app. 3-Day Blinds has specialized in window treatments for more than 40 years, and it's the name people trust. At 3-Day Blinds, we have stylish and functional window treatments for any occasion. For your free custom same-day quote, schedule your free in-home design consultation now at 3dayblinds.com. That's 3dayblinds.com.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio, or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Everyone on the road is trying to make it to their destination safely. You can help by staying aware of the large trucks and buses around you. They take longer to stop, have large blind spots, and make wide turns that require caution from other drivers. It takes all of us working together to share the road safely. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. Paid for by FMCSA.
Nearly 70% of Utah's land is controlled by the federal government, severely limiting Utah's ability to actively manage and protect our natural resources. Our families, businesses, and communities know there's a better way. Utahns have been good stewards of our public lands for generations. That's why we're asking each and every Utahn to get informed, speak up, and learn more at standforourland.utah.gov.
Make the most of your summer plans with triple rewards from Cyprus Credit Union. This July and August, use your Cyprus Rewards Visa card to earn triple points for every dollar you spend on gas and travel. That's triple the points for hotels, flights, at the gas pump, and more. This offer lasts from now through August only, so make the most of your Cyprus Rewards Visa or apply today at cypruscu.com.
Cyprus Credit Union. Your future is our future.
Equal Opportunity Lender.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a Utah psychologist says parents are experiencing more stress now than they even did during the Great Depression. Second, concern about mosquito-borne diseases is increasing after a fatality in New Hampshire from a rare infection. And third, UTA expanding its electric express bus system, this time in Salt Lake County. 84 degrees and sunny. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
All right, back on Inside Sources, Marty Carpenter sitting in for Boyd Matheson. The 2024 presidential race just keeps rolling along, though I don't think I've heard very much when it comes to, spontaneous answers from the Democratic nominee. Still not taking a lot of questions, still not out there answering anything. And so sometimes it feels like it's going on, and sometimes it feels like it's in stall mode. And to a certain extent, I get that because really things fire up after Labor Day. So we're still in that sort of summer malaise of we just had the conventions and now we've got nominees and they're getting out there and sort of getting some reps in. And then we'll see how things pick up the pace a little bit after we get past this holiday weekend. But, we've got to, you get this, I think, through the summer. I've had a lot of people, a lot of friends who are, I think you'd say they're Republicans who've said, geez, it feels like the Harris campaign has some momentum right now. And I've always just kind of said, well, that feels to me like it's because they got to go. Well, first of all, they had all the commotion of switching who their nominee was, and then they had a convention and they got to pick a VP. All of that like really does push you to center stage. And so it feels like I understand what they're saying, but I don't know that I'm buying into it necessarily being momentum. But that might be me looking at it through, Republican colored glasses, through red colored glasses. Hard to say, but I wonder what people are thinking out there generally. Is there momentum for one side or the other, or are both sort of just revving their engines before they get to the starting line? I want to bring in Brett Samuels to talk about just that. Brett, this presidential race has already had more twists and turns in it than I think anybody could have expected, or that we've really seen in any election before this. Like maybe the most surprising one in my lifetime was Trump winning in 2016, and it feels like we've had more plot twists in this one already. What are both campaigns trying to do to lead the narrative in the final stretches of campaigning?
Yeah, well, as you said, Marty, certainly a lot has happened just in the last couple of months. We've had enough news to fill a calendar year at least. But, the Harris campaign, as you said, they have certainly managed to take center stage just by virtue of, as you mentioned, going through sort of this very condensed, very rapid fire process where they're picking a vice president, they're having a convention, they're having everyone rally behind this new nominee in a way that wasn't happening with Joe Biden. And that has certainly, reinvigorated their base and allowed them to pull even in the polls. And for the Trump campaign, they're dealing with this new dynamic running against a different candidate. It seemed at the Republican convention just a month ago that the Trump campaign was sort of on a glide path to re-election. They were certainly in the driver's seat, and now they are sort of resetting, I think, really ramping up ahead of Labor Day and sort of getting their footing now as they really go on offense and go on the attack against the Harris campaign. Is it fair to say that, I've got that right in my head, right? We get past Labor Day and that's when everyone's going to fire the machine up. But I guess even more than that, my question would be, as we get to Labor Day and get into what you would consider the home stretch, at some point, Vice President Harris is going to have to take some questions. She's going to have to do some unscripted, unfriendly settings, take some questions from the general press. They can't duck that the entire way to the finish line, can they? Yeah, certainly not. We'll see tomorrow night. Obviously, Vice President Harris and her running mate Tim Walz are going to have this joint interview with CNN that will air on Thursday night. And that's sort of the first step, I think, or the first bar that they're going to need to clear, where they have this interview where certainly I would expect that Vice President Harris will be asked about some of her shifting policy views. Her campaign has sort of distanced herself or distanced the candidate from past views on fracking, on Medicare for all, and issues like that. But certainly the vice president will have to speak to that herself. And I think tomorrow night will be sort of the first bar for her to clear and the first time she'll need to do that. But certainly, I think J.D. Vance is sort of a good example of this, where he came under a lot of scrutiny when he was first added to the ticket, certainly over some of his older comments about, parenting and childless women and all that. And he did a number of interviews. He got asked about it. He sort of addressed it head on. And, for Vice President Harris, we haven't seen her do that yet. So certainly I think post-Labor Day, as this honeymoon period that we've seen sort of wears off maybe, I think she'll need to go out and do interviews and find new ways to sustain that momentum, to keep people interested and to keep introducing herself to voters in this very condensed timeline. Do you know if that interview is going to be aired live, or is it a pre-produced and packaged production? Yeah, so my understanding is that they will sit for the interview during the day while they are in Georgia campaigning, and then it will air in the evening. So it will not air live, but whether CNN puts out some stipulations about editing and all that, I'm not sure. But it won't be a live interview that airs as it's conducted. All right, let's talk about the debate then, because that is one area where you can put a lot of rules in place. You can turn microphones off. You can do a number of things, and candidates can have a lot of rehearsed answers in their head, but you have to be able to tap dance a little bit and make decisions on your feet. Have they agreed to debate terms yet? I know President Trump had said, let's do 3. I totally understand the strategy there of
get as many as you can. And the Harris campaign, after initially saying Trump would not debate them, is now not agreeing to as many. So where are we on debates right now? I have a hard time keeping track of it.
Yeah, so, there is basically, as of this moment, there's one debate on the books between the two candidates, and that's going to happen September 10th on ABC News. As I'm sure you and maybe some of your listeners have seen this week, there's been some haggling over whether the microphones will be muted when, it's not the candidate's turn to speak, which was the case during this Trump-Biden debate in June, where the microphones were muted when a candidate wasn't recognized by moderators. So the Harris campaign wants microphones to be open the entire time. They feel like that works to their advantage if viewers can hear Trump, interrupting or speaking over the vice president. The Trump campaign has said that they want the same rules as the CNN debate. So there's been some haggling there, but there's no indication really that that's going to prevent this debate from happening on September 10th. So that's the only one that's currently on the books. The Harris campaign has signaled that it would agree to a second presidential debate in October after this first one takes place. But, I think they have sort of left themselves some wiggle room where, depending on where polls are, depending on how this first debate goes, maybe they don't agree to specifics, or maybe they sort of find a workaround there. So I think that remains to be seen. And because of that open-ended nature, I think it really increases the importance and the pressure to a degree for this first debate, where both candidates, this is sort of their first and maybe only real chance before early voting starts to make a really strong impression on voters and sort of turn things in their direction.
And as much as advertisements and media buys and such can make a big difference in a race, in the presidential race in particular, it is a debate that people will tune into. I think you'll see a lot of the country interested in seeing those two and being able to compare them side by side. Even though I would say a large part of the country knows exactly how they're going to vote, they're still going to tune in to watch that. I'm interested in the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. development as he sort of dropped out of the race and then stood next to President Trump and said, we don't agree on everything, but we agree on enough things, and had some thrown his support behind President Trump. I wonder if you could just weigh in on the role that RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard could potentially play in swinging independent voters one way or the other.
Yeah, so, just as we've seen, I think Democrats try to bring in disaffected Republicans or Trump critics from the GOP and sort of, say that they're welcoming those kind of supporters into their campaign. I think this is the Trump campaign making a similar effort to say to independent voters, to disaffected Democrats that, look at the support that we're getting from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., from Tulsi Gabbard, that there's a place in the Trump campaign for those kinds of voters, for folks with those views that may be a little out of step with the mainstream or a little out of step with either party right now. We're expecting to see both RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard on the campaign trail in support of Trump. Tulsi Gabbard will actually be moderating what the Trump campaign is describing as a town hall event in Wisconsin this week. So we'll see the two of them together in a key swing state. And with RFK in particular, when he dropped out, there's certainly a lot of talk that his polling numbers had really dwindled, that he was only in sort of the low single digits nationally by the time he dropped out in a lot of swing states. But the Trump campaign has certainly made the case that, even if it's a small percentage of voters in a state like Nevada and a state like Arizona, where the margin may only be 10 to 15,000 votes, if the Trump campaign can pull in, a few thousand of those RFK supporters, that could certainly go a long way.
Brett, really appreciate your insight on this. Brett Samuels is a White House reporter for The Hill. I'm sure we'll have lots more action in the presidential campaign between here and the finish line. Back with more on Inside Sources after this.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. Our top story this hour, UTA is expanding its electric bus route through Salt Lake County. The 7-mile route will connect Murray, Taylorsville, and West Valley. Utah Congressman Burgess Owens says UTA is the cornerstone of the state's infrastructure.
The MBX line is the first of its kind in Salt Lake County.
And the grant funding that we're celebrating here today will significantly improve how people move through the 4th District, moving travel faster, more efficient, and accessible to all.
UTA connects 80% of Utah's population with public transportation. The route expected to open in fall of 2026. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Israel's prime minister has reportedly approved limited pauses in the fighting in Gaza so kids can get polio vaccinations. There are hundreds of thousands of children in Gaza who need the vaccine. There's been at least one case of polio reported. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down on the day, 159 points right now, and the NASDAQ is down 198. Coming up, another lovely summer day, and we'll have more sunshine, but a little wildfire smoke as well. KSL News Time 2:01.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Hi, I'm Nate Orchard, the mayor of Sac Lake City with Advanced Window Products.
And I'm Jake, the other guy. Are your windows old and inefficient and driving up your energy bills?
It's time for an upgrade. Our energy-efficient windows not only look great, but also help you save on your utility bills.
And right now, we're offering an incredible deal, $2,500 off when you purchase 10 windows or more.
That's right, $2,500 in savings to make your home more comfortable and energy efficient.
Plus, we offer a lifetime warranty on all our windows, so you can have peace of mind.
Don't wait. Call us today at 801-850-9100 or visit us at advancedwindows.com to schedule your free estimate. We also offer payment plans as low as $150 a month.
From our factory to your installation in 8 weeks or less. Call us today at 801-850-9100 or visit us at advancedwindows.com to schedule your free estimate.
Advanced Window Products, Utah's window experts.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
A lot can happen between falling in love with a house online and owning it, between imagining living there and breathing in your new home for the first time. Having an advocate who can help you navigate the complex world of financing, inspections, negotiating, analyzing the market, and talking through any anxieties that may pop up, that can make all the difference. That's what the expertise of a Realtor can do for you. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors and bound by a code of ethics, because that's who we are.
My wife and I always loved doing everything together. Jiu-jitsu, kayaking, and intimacy was always on point. It was around my early 30s when I noticed a downward trend. Watching a lot of TV, putting on weight, and just full of self-doubt. I had tried another men's clinic with disappointing results. It's the personalized treatment I receive at Revive Men's Health that has been the complete game changer for me. I've got my energy and motivation back, I'm feeling stronger than I did in my 20s, and it made me a much better husband to my wife.
I'm Eric Ramos, healthcare provider at Revive Men's Health. If you are always feeling tired or moody, have a difficult time sleeping, or decreased libido, you may be suffering from low testosterone.
Book your free T-check and exam at Revive Men's Health, Salt Lake City. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Jason Jones.
A few extra cars have hit the road now, and we're seeing a bit of a slowdown northbound side of I-15 as you approach 1300 South. It's nothing major, and it looks like it might actually be clearing out at this point as well. But just keep an eye out for that as you're traveling around. Otherwise, everything else is looking good. You're at regular speeds on all the other highways and side streets, except for northbound on Bangerter Highway as you approach the 201. That's due to the construction in that area. Receive 0% for 5 years on the 2024 Tucson or Elantra. When you walk through the doors, you feel like family at Murdoch Hyundai in Logan, Linden, Murray, or online at murdochhyundai.com. I'm Jason Jones in the KSL Traffic Center.
It'll be sunny with highs in the 80s through the rest of the week, and we could get some wildfire smoke blowing in from Idaho tomorrow. Right now, 84 degrees and sunny. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Sitting in today for Boyd Matheson, I am Marty Carpenter, and we move into our second hour of Inside Sources. You know, no matter what you might wish that Utah was known for, the jazz or skiing, greatest snow on earth, Utah really is known for being a very religious state. It stands out as a beacon of religious engagement in an increasingly secular world. It's something we're being recognized for more and more, even as we get, I think, known, or at least we can appreciate a broader variety of religions that make up that commitment to religion within our state. Church attendance rates in Utah surpass those of most U.S. states and almost every European country. In Utah, you're offered a unique case study, really, of the role faith plays in modern society, or that it can play in modern society. Utah's religious landscape highlights our diverse faith communities and has the potential benefits associated with religious participation on full display for the rest of the world to look at, sometimes be bewildered by, and oftentimes to admire. Hannah Syriac is a reporter for the Deseret News. She covers courts, crime, policy, and faith. The final of that list is the one we want to bring her in for today. Hannah, thanks for joining us. As you look at this and kind of dig in on this trend, what factors contribute to Utah's ability to maintain strong religious participation rates while other regions are experiencing decline?
Thank you for having me. That's kind of a hard question to answer, but I think a really big reason is people of faith here are very welcoming to other people of faith. That's what I have consistently heard as I've talked to different faith leaders, I will add, of different faiths in the community, that when you have these communities that work together, especially on service and community projects, that brings people in who, may not be part of a religious tradition, who then see this community structure and end up joining a religious community or a community of faith in the state.
That's really interesting, the idea of sort of a welcoming spirit. I wonder, I've lived in places outside of Utah. I've lived in what I think you would call, at least, if not the Bible Belt, like the extension or the Belt Loop along it in Oklahoma, where there were a lot of churches of different denominations, primarily Christian churches, but not one that necessarily stood out as like, that's the biggest one, right? And I wonder if here in Utah, because there is a religious denomination that is more populous than the others, right? There is sort of that behemoth here. That's not the word I like to use, but you get what I'm saying, that there is one church that has a lot of members here. And if they have a welcoming spirit, does that sort of extend into the community and then become like the dominant tone of, no, we welcome all faiths here and we appreciate people who worship however they may choose to worship?
I think so. And I think this has to do with geography, which is kind of an underrated aspect of looking at a religious landscape. Because you have around a little over 2 million members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the state of Utah, there are, plenty of different congregations in different neighborhoods. And so those neighborhoods end up having a lot of community events together, independent of formal church events. And I think that creates this atmosphere that is just friendly to faith in general. And we've seen increases in faith in the state from 2010 to 2020. Those are the most recent census numbers among Catholics, Muslims, and then other denominations as well. And I think that's just indicative of this welcoming atmosphere that's created from having communities filled with people of faith that band together, which also contributes to Utah's high social capital rate too.
What are the benefits that come to people who don't participate in organized religion when they live in a community where there is a high level of religious participation?
I think the most obvious one is social capital, and that's kind of this fancy term that refers to the health of the society. And the health of the society is measured in these kind of abstract concepts that we talk about, like the health of institutions or the health of a community. And when you have a lot of people of faith, not just of one tradition, but of various traditions in the same area, there are lots of organized efforts to help with things like disaster relief or to, develop charities that operate on a local level, but maybe are tied to a national or international effort. I'd say, the Catholic Church is a really great example of having these charitable services available. And then there's also educational scholarships that are funded through national and international religious charities too. So all of these sorts of facets, when they're present in a community and can be accessed by people of different faith or no faith at all, then kind of directly contribute to the health and connectedness of a society, which is really the benefit that is afforded to all people from having faith in the community.
So if Utah starts to stand out, or the trend line would show that we're going one direction and the rest of the country or Europe are going a different direction, what are the potential long-term effects that we'll see in a community or future generations because we've gone on a different path than is the trend line in the rest of the country?
I think the biggest answer I'd give is lack of loneliness. One of the things that we're seeing in European countries, there's only one European country with more weekly attendance than the state of Utah, and that's Poland. Utah is the number one state in the country for weekly attendance. These other states, we're seeing higher levels of loneliness and higher levels of unhappiness than Utah. Utah also has great numbers in terms of surveys on self-reported data of happiness. And I think that's, again, because religion is structured around community. And so when you don't have that, people struggle to make connections. It's hard to mimic what religion does, which is create for a de facto social safety net for you and your family. If you come into hard times, you have access to resources, but more importantly, you have access to people. And so as Utah maintains its reputation of being a haven for religious freedom, a haven for people of all faiths being welcome in the state, then you're going to see those sorts of important relationships cultivated in the state stand out on a national and international stage.
Hannah Syriac from the Deseret News, the story you posted, Utah is beating de-churching. Worth a read. Go take a look at that one. Hannah, I appreciate your time joining us here on Inside Sources. This is really interesting because I've read about this a little bit, this idea that one thing we lost during the COVID pandemic was that people stopped having a second or a third place, right? People used to be at home, that's one of your places. At work, that's your second place. And we've had this trend as a country not to have a third place. People used to be part of social clubs, country clubs, book clubs. They used to go to church in a way that the trend line would show that a lot of them don't now. That third place and the social element there, we're seeing it has far-reaching positive impacts on people and on communities.
This weekend, labor will be the last thing on your mind. Before you head out to your favorite lake, lookout point, or campsite, make KSL your first travel stop.
We're starting off the afternoon already with emergency traffic.
We have you covered with Triple Team Traffic for the holiday weekend on KSL News Radio.
Well, I've reached another milestone on my journey with Soda weight loss. It's 6 months since I hit my goal and let go of 70 pounds of fat weight. And in those 6 months, I've managed to keep it off and still enjoy all the benefits of my journey, including a new wardrobe, a new sense of self-confidence, and most important of all, a set of new habits that are healthy and that will last me for the rest of my life. This is what makes Soda so amazing. Of course, it's spelled S-O-T-A. I've now been enjoying the benefits of Soda weight loss longer than it took me to let go of the fat in the first place. So think about, where do you want to be in 4 to 5 months? Start the program now and you could be down 50, 60, even 70 pounds by the holidays. Imagine showing your family and friends the new transformed you at Christmas. Check them out for yourself. Go to sotaweightloss.com. That's sotaweightloss.com and see for yourself why Soda is #1 for client results and client satisfaction. Soda stands for, say it with me, Say of the Art.
Hi, can I help you?
You don't recognize me?
You look familiar. Have we met?
I'm your property taxes.
Oh, sure. You've gotten bigger.
Guess what?
Come on. No, you can't just give me a break.
Rising property values in Utah have led to increased property taxes. Some are struggling due to those increases, but it's time for good news. AARP Utah is here to help. AARP Utah has made it the top priority to connect qualified Utahns to our state's Circuit Breaker program, which offers tax relief to renters and homeowners. If you're over 66 with a household income below $41,000, you might qualify to save up to $1,200 in property tax relief. Don't miss out. The deadline to apply for homeowners is September 1st. For more information and to see if you qualify for up to $1,200 in property tax relief, visit aarp.org/UT. That's aarp.org/UT.
Hey, BYU football fans, come visit your local Macy's grocery store for all your tailgating needs. Macy's has great prices on all of your favorite game day items, like burger patties, made fresh dips, and more. Did you know that your favorite tailgate foods are also now offered through Macy's Catering? Macy's offers a wide variety of catering platters, from smoked meats to wings, and even desserts. Catering is available to order online at Macys.com or in store. So, whether you're having a small or large party, Macy's has you covered. Never miss a deal when you sign up for the rewards program and emails to get the digital ad sent straight to your inbox each week. Come visit your local Macy's grocery store for all of your tailgating needs. Get game day ready with Macy's. Happy shopping.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Plus free home delivery on select smart beds when you add any base. Ends Labor Day. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
The best things in life, they come in twos. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 tacos. And now for a limited time, get our best deal of the year. Buy any phone when you switch to Consumer Cellular and get 2 months of service free. That's right, the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage as Big Wireless, now with 2 months free. Proof the best things in life really do come in twos. Visit consumercellular.com or call 1-888-FREEDOM. Second and third month of monthly base service fee waived for new customers with the purchase of a phone and activation by September 2nd, 2024. Taxes, fees, and third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Tim and Amanda.
One of the things I love about radio is that we are all hearing it at the same time. One of the differences between that and just scrolling on your phone is that I don't know when that story was posted. Maybe an hour ago, maybe 3 days ago.
To your point about who wrote it, where did it come from, and is it dated information, our hope every day is that we can provide a more broad spectrum of information on a single topic that you can then take and make decisions on your own.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Our goal every day on Inside Sources is to help you divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense in your world. We have conversations with great thinkers, with great leaders, and great people who are just out there making a difference in the world. Now, we do talk about politics, but only so we can discuss society and culture. And then we explore society and culture so we can discuss principles and the people in America and the state of Utah who actually live them and apply them every day. We bring the best and brightest minds to the state of Utah, and we love to take the Utah model and send it out to our nation's capital and beyond. Every day on Inside Sources, you'll be part of that conversation. To help you understand things in a different way, we'll get you to think again about what you think you know, but most important, we're going to help you have confidence to have crucial conversations in your community and in your own home.
Join Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson, 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a new electric express bus system coming to Salt Lake County. Second, fighting in Gaza could stop temporarily so kids there can get polio vaccines. And third, our recent rains have led to a big increase in mosquito populations in northern Utah. 84 degrees and sunny. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Marty Carpenter in for Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources. I imagine this has happened to just about everybody. You've had a bad boss or a bad work environment. I was trying to think through. I know that I've had some that I didn't love as much as others, and I've had some who, man, would I run through a wall to deliver for that boss. And what's the difference between a good boss and a bad boss, and what difference does it make not only in your work performance but in just your overall happiness? You know, bad bosses can affect people in so many ways on the negative side. There's added stress in the work environment. It can deal with finances, pressure there. How can we respond to bad bosses to improve our work life? How can we change maybe to make a bad boss a little bit better? All important questions for really anybody who's ever had a job and worked for anybody or been supervised by anybody. Want to bring in Michelle Singletary. She is the personal finance columnist for the Washington Post. Michelle, do you like your boss?
I love my boss. I have the most amazing, kind, thoughtful boss, and I am grateful every single day for her.
I'm sure it's because you talk to a lot of people who don't have good bosses, who would say they have bad bosses or horrible bosses or mean bosses. What are the effects that those type of bosses have on us in measurable ways?
Well, you know, it's so interesting. I was looking at several studies or polls by Gallup, and they just looked at, you know, the fact that more than half of employees are looking for another job, and many of them because they are under poor management. And so when you look at it, for example, in a 2019 Gallup report, they found that U.S. businesses lose $1 trillion a year to voluntary turnover. And these are folks that don't have to leave, but if they did a better job, would stay. So there's a real cost to businesses when people leave. And Gallup also looked at, you know, what would it take to keep people there? And it just blew me away when I saw this. They found that it takes more than a 20% pay raise to lure someone away from a manager who has engaged them, and next to nothing to poach your most disengaged workers, or those who are being, you know, who have a bully boss. So basically what they're saying is, you know, just come. We don't need to pay you any more money. Just get out of that bad situation. And there's a real cost to employees. Many people leave short of maybe getting even a pension. They leave with no other job and a prospect, knowing that it's going to impact their personal finances because they made the decision that their mental health is more important.
I wonder, Michelle, if there's a generational breakdown on this. Do you have any insight on that? Like, are boomers more likely to go, yeah, my boss is a jerk, but that's what bosses are, and I'm just going to plug away, and where younger workers might say, no, I'm not putting up with that? Or is there anything there that would surprise us if you have any of the data at all?
So we do know that during the pandemic, lots of people left, and I don't know the breakout in terms of ages, but there was something about that incident that people said, you know what, life is way too short. And so just as I hear from readers, so I did a column about this, and you look at the reader responses, and they're all over the place. People who've been working for 30 years and people who just started working, and we are all being subjected to these terrible bosses. I mean, I wrote about my own situation. My husband ended up retiring early because he had an untenable situation. And he, wanted to work a little longer, but he just said, I just can't work under these conditions. And it impacted our marriage. And we finally realized that we needed help. And so we went to my employee assistance program and found a couples therapist because our communication got to be so bad because he was so agitated and so, he was suffering. And it was a dark Sorry, it was a dark time, and I'm just glad that we got help, and that's a real cost, right? I mean, if he had worked a little longer, we'd have more money for our retirement, but we just decided his mental health, our marriage was more important.
So if you're in a situation where you have a bad boss and maybe you're looking and just haven't found a way to move on to the next job yet, what are some strategies that you would suggest to cope with that bad boss until you can make a change, or maybe in such a way where you're successful at it and decide ultimately not to make a change?
So one of the things is if they're doing some illegal activity, you definitely want to report it to HR. You want to report it to their manager. Now, I have to tell you, a lot of people, because in the comment section of my column, people were saying, I went to that person's boss and they did nothing. And we do know that happens. And sometimes the behavior is just on that line of being illegal and they feel like they can't do anything. But you definitely want to take the avenues to report it. Document. Every time they do something that impacts you in such a negative way mentally, or, that you think is illegal, get documentation of it, keep it so that if you have to file a formal complaint, you have the evidence. The other thing is, as I said, go to upper management and personally, if your company has an EAP program, get help to deal with it. And therapists can give you strategies to get you through if you have to stay on that job because you can't find another position. And I think that's the most important thing. Take care of your mental health. And also just in terms of finances, if you know that you're going to have to leave and you might have to leave without another job, now's the time to get your finances in order. Try to pay down your debt, get your budget in order so that if you have to leave and there's going to be a period where you don't have income, you've got some money to take care of yourself until you get that next job.
All right, great advice. From an employer's perspective, though, how can you gauge the health of your environment? How can you know if you're a good boss or a bad boss? And then can you be a better boss if you're a bad boss?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that question because upper management, in case of my husband's situation, they knew what was going on. He complained, and they put it back on him. And I'm actually more upset at them than it's probably equal, but I'm really mad at upper management. And so if people are continuing to complain, there is something there. All of these people didn't get together and say, we're going to gang up on this boss. And you need to really listen to them. In the column I talked about, I don't know if people are familiar with Ted Lasso on Apple TV. You ought to sit all those managers down and make them watch that series because, and I know it's a fictional character, but he was an example of someone who could manage to success. And a lot of times there isn't enough management training. Someone is good at their job and you make them a manager, but they are not a good manager, nor did you help train them to be a manager. And so as we approach Labor Day, I just encourage all, frontline managers and their the upper management executives to really think about the culture that you have at your company. And you will be more successful if you train your managers and listen to people who are complaining about how they are treating them. For the most part, people aren't complaining just to complain. Now, you always have that troubled employee, but I tell you, every workplace I had, when people as a group were saying something's wrong, then something was wrong.
Well, Michelle, I would say this. Everyone should take care of their employees, but especially if their employees are married to someone who's a columnist for the Washington Post.
That is true. That is very true. But this was a hard column to write because it got real personal. But I wanted to give a voice to those people who are suffering. Many people listening right now are suffering under a bad bully boss. And I really do hope, send this link, send my column to your upper management. Say, this is really interesting as a sort of clue that you've got a problem manager on your job.
Michelle Singletary is the personal finance columnist for the Washington Post. Michelle, thanks so much for sharing your insight with us on Inside Sources today.
Thank you for having me.
We're back with more on Inside Sources after this.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomis. KSL's top local story this hour. Mosquitoes are everywhere lately, and the manager for the Davis Mosquito Abatement District, Gary Hatch, says there's been a big increase in floodwater mosquitoes after all the rain we got. This breed is a big nuisance.
They will bite all day long, and they are aggressive biters.
Hatch says we could see a decrease in these mosquitoes in about a week. He also wants to assure people that these are not the kind that carry West Nile virus. Those come out later at night. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Paralympic Games are underway in Paris, where Amanda Morris is reporting on one of the roughest sports, wheelchair rugby.
It's like such a high-intensity sport where different athletes in wheelchairs are like ramming into each other, and it's like football meets rugby meets bumper wheelchairs, and it's just like a high-contact, intense sport.
Utah has a number of athletes competing in Paralympic sports this year. Your money at this moment, at the close of trading, the Dow was down 159 points today, the NASDAQ down 198, and the S&P 500 was down 33. And our KSL weather looks like more sunny days, but with a little wildfire smoke coming in as well. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
It's me again, and of course, I'm at the annual Fall Extravaganza at J&J Garden Center in Layton. And what a great time to buy. Right now, all containerized trees, all shrubs, and all perennials are 20% off. You heard me right. J&J's entire inventory of containerized trees, shrubs, and perennials are 20% off their regular price. J&J Garden Center definitely has the best products at the best price, and most definitely the best service, too. But don't take my word for it. Come experience J&J Garden Center for yourself. Take advantage of their incredible fall tree, shrub, and perennial extravaganza. Take the Layton Parkway exit, Main Street to Gentile, then west 2 miles. You've got to see it to believe it. You really do.
Country grown to your home, J&J Garden Center.
If you ordered a steak sandwich and they served you bologna, you'd be ticked off.
B-O-L-O-G-N-A or B-A-L-O-N-E-Y. It doesn't matter how you spell it. It's still bologna.
Hi, this is Jason.
And Kathy of Window World.
We could go on and on about Window World, but folks, it's all about you.
Your home and what you need.
Window World is America's #1 window replacement company.
Call Window World at 801-281-8111.
Or check windowworldutah.com. And as Doug always said, that's no baloney.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is a serious heart condition. Some symptoms include being short of breath, feeling tired, or having dizziness or chest pain. My HCM impacted how I felt and what I could do. So I asked my cardiologist about treatment advances that gave me new options. That conversation was big for me. That's why I'm working with Bristol-Myers Squibb to raise awareness about HCM and to help others like me. Talk to your cardiologist today and visit hcmrealtalk.com to learn more.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb.
Dave and Dujanovic.
If you're driving to work or you're driving the kids to a soccer game, we're your in-car companions.
People will come up to me and say, "Oh, I talk to you every day. You don't realize it because I'm talking at the radio, but I talk to you every day."
Listen for Dave and Dujanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Jason Jones.
Well, we got a SUV off to the side of the road. It's a SUV pulling a trailer as this is northbound I-15. Just about 1,500 south is where that's going to be. So far, it's not really affecting traffic, but if you're in that HOV lane, make sure you keep an eye out and don't make that situation bad at this point. The rest of your highways and side streets looking really good. Just remember you got some slowing if you're northbound on Bangerter Highway as you approach the 201. That's due to construction in that area. It's time to get your tickets for Utah Symphony and Utah Opera this season. Right now, get the best available main floor seats for just $25 at usuo.org/on sale. I'm Jason Jones in the KSL Traffic Center.
It'll be sunny with highs in the 80s through the rest of the week, but we could get some wildfire smoke blowing in from Idaho tomorrow. And right now, we're at 86 degrees with sunny skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com, where Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Marty Carpenter in for Boyd Matheson today on Inside Sources. And shifting this segment, I want to talk a little bit about mental and behavioral health. This was a topic that during the legislative session was pretty hot. One where the state said, boy, we recognize we've got some numbers heading in the wrong direction, and we've got to get a plan together and start heading in the right direction. Just to give you some kind of context on the challenges we face here in Utah, we have a high prevalence of mental health conditions. It's like 22% of adults in Utah have experienced some form of mental illness or experience it each year, higher than the national average, which is about 19%. Still pretty high, but we're above that number. We have a really high youth suicide rate from Utahns age 10 to 24. The rate is nearly double the national average, and the state has been working a lot in a number of ways to change that trend. We have issues with access to mental health services, with mental health workforce shortages, and substance use disorders. A lot of stuff that we have these trend lines that we need to correct. And it's not that the state's not doing anything, but the state is trying to figure out how to best marshal those forces in the right direction. Laura Summers is the Director of Industry Research at the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute, which is part of the University of Utah. Laura, you were part of the effort to put together a master plan when it comes to mental and behavioral health, and that's something that really shaped a lot of what we did as a state during the legislative session last year. So let's start here. Can you just give us an overview of Utah's mental and behavioral health master plan, and what are the core goals and priorities that that plan is pushing us toward?
Yeah, I would be happy to. And thanks so much for having me on, Marty. So, yes, the Behavioral Health Coalition came together back in 2022 and really wanted to look at how better to address Utah's growing behavioral health crisis. So it is important to point out that there is a lot of positive work being done. You mentioned that the state is really leading the nation on a lot of behavioral health innovations, interventions, and reforms, but we do continue to have high suicide rates, untreated anxiety and depression, growing numbers of serious mental illness, and drug-related deaths as well. So there is this strong recognition that to really meet the needs of our population, we needed more accessible, equitable, aligned, and effective behavioral health services. So as such, the Behavioral Health Coalition came together under the direction of the Utah Hospital Association and the Utah Department of Health and Human Services to, number one, assess the current systems of Utah's behavioral health services and supports, and second, to develop that master plan for improvement. So this was a document that was released earlier this year. It's really a living document that's meant to be updated over time, knowing that things change, environments change, systems change, but they wanted to create a pathway or a guide path for moving forward or getting started on really addressing some of those key issues that existed at a system level that were preventing sort of that accessibility, that alignment, and ultimately the effectiveness of offering behavioral health services. The current version outlines 7 strategic priorities for behavioral health system reform. These range from continuing to support the use of innovation and evidence-based interventions to strengthening behavioral health prevention and early intervention, continuing to build out Utah's behavioral health crisis and stabilization systems, and then expanding and supporting and diversifying Utah's behavioral health workforce, knowing that workforce component is such an important component of some of those issues related to accessibility and alignment. It also outlines some recommended focus areas and programmatic changes, as well as key questions that, needed to be highlighted but don't necessarily have answers for at this time. But hopefully this creates a strong document moving forward for the state to really create that collaborative system.
So during this last legislative session, lawmakers created the Behavioral Health Commission. Can you help us understand what that group is going to do and how that's going to be helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was one of our findings as we were doing or assisting with the assessment around the behavioral health for the behavioral health master plan, was that there was, again, a lot of great work being done, but a lot of different committees. At one point, I think we counted like over 40 different mental health councils, task force, working groups, all sort of taking a specific topic area or focus area within mental health and behavioral health. And again, doing great things, but they were losing a lot of efficiency because they weren't coordinated and potentially were resulting in unintended consequences because they didn't always know, or duplication because they didn't always know what the other group was doing. So one of the specific duties of this new commission is to reduce the number of boards and commissions in that space. A lot of them will continue in operation, again, continuing to do the great things that they are doing, but it's going to help streamline that process and ultimately be the central authority for coordinating behavioral health initiatives among state and federal and local governments, our health systems in our state, and other stakeholders to ensure that the state behavioral health systems are comprehensive, aligned, effective, and efficient.
So are we making progress? And even with that progress, are there still gaps in Utah's mental health services? And then what do you see as the most pressing issues that need to be addressed?
Yeah, so I would say absolutely we're making progress. And again, one of the things that we found as we were doing in our assessment was we looked at other states and where other states are, and Utah is actually leading out on a lot of these issues, and I think it's important to note that. But still definitely a lot of gaps in the systems, certain populations that aren't able to get access to certain services. So I think in some of the top line things, workforce is certainly an issue that continues to need to be addressed. We just have mental health shortages, professional shortages in all of our counties, in all of our areas. And of course, that's worsened in rural areas and for certain populations. We have, a certain segment of of our providers, mental health providers, who are moving to a cash-only payment system, which actually, in some ways can increase access, but really only can increase access for people who can afford to pay cash for services. And ultimately, because we have a limited supply of our workforce, can actually reduce access overall. And then I think there just needs to be among a myriad of different issues, I know there's a sense of more focus on prevention and getting upstream to address some of those issues earlier, and hopefully prevent some of the need for crisis services that we've done a great job sort of expanding in our state over the last 2 years.
Laura Summers is with the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute at the University of Utah. Laura, thanks so much for your work on this issue and for giving us an update and pointing out where we're headed. Really appreciate it. All right, that's Laura Summers from the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute. We're back with Sam Benson talking politics on the next segment of Inside Sources after this.
Home ownership. At Progressive, we know it's part of the American dream. It's winds blowing across a fruited plain, and also your new fire pit, which subsequently sets your gazebo ablaze. It's hard-hitting football, and an even harder-hitting price estimate from your general contractor. That's a star-spangled bummer. It's also around-the-clock protection when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, which can help keep the American dream of home ownership alive and kicking. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Using the Labor Day weekend to get some work done? We got you. Stop by any store to save on oil, fuel system cleaner, wipers, and more. Looking for an end-of-summer wash? We've got deals for that too. Don't want to leave the garage? Get same-day delivery on AutoZone.com. Do Labor Day your way by getting something done at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Don't you love this time of year? Fabulous fall colors amongst the Red Rock Views and Cedar Breaks and Dixie National Forest. You should take a drive where you will no doubt enjoy 4 scenic highways, connecting you to the most amazing fall colors you'll ever see. Time to put the you back in Utah, because it's all about the journey you create. This fall, see you in Cedar City. Start your journey at this year's Utah Shakespeare Festival, now through the fall, featuring 4 incredible plays. Do you like nature? Take a hike, go mountain biking, or OHVing in Bryan Head. You'll enjoy many fun fall events, like the charm of an organic farmer's market. And be sure you include a visit to the best pumpkin patches in the West. You will definitely get it all this fall in Cedar City, putting the you back in Utah and Cedar City. To plan your journey and for Cedar City's updated fall color report, activities, and cool foodie places to go, visit cedarcity.com. cedarcity.com.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. Did you know that we offer 3 distinct styles of gutter protection? Each one meant to handle a specific leaf problem. You might not even know there are different styles of gutter protection, but there are. And if you pick the wrong one, it could be a huge waste of money. Now, the big gutter guard companies won't tell you this. They try to sell you a one-size-fits-all gutter guard. And it could be completely wrong for the amount and types of trees and leaves you have. Not RGS Exteriors. We understand which kind of leaf problem needs which kind of gutter guard. We'll do an in-depth evaluation to assess the types, locations, and numbers of trees in your yard. Based on that data, we match your home to the right gutter guard. So don't risk wasting money on the wrong gutter protection. For a free evaluation and estimate, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsexteriors.com.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
Hey, BYU football fans, come visit your local Macy's grocery store for all your tailgating needs. Macy's has great prices on all of your favorite game day items, like burger patties, made fresh dips, and more. Did you know that your favorite tailgate foods are also now offered through Macy's Catering? Macy's offers a wide variety of catering platters, from smoked meats to wings and even desserts. Catering is available to order online at Macys.com or in store. So, whether you're having a small or large party, Macy's has you covered. Never miss a deal when you sign up for the rewards program and emails to get the digital ad sent straight to your inbox each week. Come visit your local Macy's grocery store for all of your tailgating needs. Get game day ready with Macy's. Happy shopping.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, we've had a big increase in mosquitoes since our recent rains. Fortunately, the experts say these are not the kind that carry disease. Second, one of the Paralympic sports we'll be seeing this week is wheelchair rugby. And third, the roadbed for new sections of Bangerter Highway will be crushed up concrete from the old road. 86 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
There we go, new board, and I got to push it up. Marty Carpenter in today for Boyd Matheson as we're in the home stretch here on Inside Sources. You know, we've been watching, and we talked a little bit earlier in the show about President Trump out on the campaign trail and Vice President Harris out on the campaign trail. What are the things that they are talking about? What are the things they're trying not to talk about? Who are they talking to? Who are they not talking to? And it all feels a little bit devoid of public policy. It's a little short on specifics, and that's kind of the name of the game when you're in these campaigns. Having run some campaigns, what you're trying to do is push one major narrative. When you're in a presidential race, it's really like one major narrative with like 5 sub-narratives is what you're really trying to advance. But in all of that, we get lost in the weeds, and we don't get lost in the weeds. We don't get into the specifics of the policies. Now, for the Trump campaign, they've actually been a little bit more specific in some of the things they're trying to do. The Harris campaign, to some extent, understandably, they're just firing up, but they are certainly trying to find their footing, would be the nicest way to put it, and what their policies are. Sometimes you get surprised by where they are. Sometimes they're very vague about what they're not talking about. So let's talk a little bit about some of the specifics that we do know. One of Trump's campaign policies, his promises has been that he's going to effect the largest mass deportation program to expel illegal immigrants from the country if he is elected. I want to talk about that in specifics and see, how do we actually go about that if he is in fact elected. Sam Benson is the national political correspondent for the Deseret News covering the 2024 presidential election. Sam, how you holding up? It's been quite a ride, and you're just gearing up for the wildest part.
Marty, we're on the home stretch, but it feels like at this point we've had 5 home stretches. So we'll see how these last 2 months go.
I know. I was telling someone the other day, like, this one's been so wild that you can almost forget that it was just a couple of weeks ago one of these candidates got shot at.
Yeah.
It can kind of change so quickly, and the news cycle kind of moves on. It's hard to keep up with that. So, all right, let's talk about specifically this particular topic for Trump. What are the challenges of implementing a policy like a mass deportation? What are the advantages of talking about it? And do you think they have the specifics?
Well, this is something that Trump promised when he ran in 2016, right? That he would lead one of the country's largest deportation operations in its history. And he quickly learned, or rather the folks leading ICE and the Department of Homeland Security quickly learned, that deportation isn't an easy thing. There are a lot of factors that play into the ability to apprehend and deport migrants once they've already, left the border regions and entered the United States. And so, you mentioned that the Harris campaign gets critiqued over and over for being really light on policy. And we've heard a bit more on her economic policy and her foreign policy in the last couple of weeks. But Trump, has been running this campaign for a year. This is his third time upon, atop the Republican ticket. And we still don't know much about how exactly he would plan to lead out this deportation initiative or operation. They claim, he was down at the border last week, and one of our Deseret News reporters, Brigham Tomko, was there and asked the former president during a press conference how he would carry this out. And he said he would work with local law enforcement to gather up migrants and then deport them to their home countries. But that's really hard to do. I mean, individual sheriff's offices or states have to enter what are called 287G agreements in order to have the ability to ask individuals about their legal status in the country. And then ICE officials have to be the ones to actually do the deporting or help them and aid them to leave the country. And so you get into kind of some difficult policy and legal weeds here that the Trump campaign isn't talking about and doesn't necessarily have a plan to combat.
And of course, when you get onto the campaign trail, sometimes you just want to drive the message and you'll sort out the details a little bit later. I'm wondering, though, is there some element of this that might just be, hey, if at least you're taking a tough stance or talking about a tough stance, that can discourage the problem from getting worse and perhaps discourage some people who may be inclined to enter the country illegally from doing so?
Well, that's been the argument that the Trump campaign has been making for the full year of its existence, is that they claim that because President Joe Biden campaigned on a kind of an immigrant-friendly platform in 2020, that's why we saw these big surges. And of course, those who study immigration policy would point to different, factors like the lifting of the COVID-19 sanctions and other things causing those surges. But you can certainly make an argument that if migrants, crossing through the Darien Gap or coming up through Mexico are being told that they'll be treated well when entering the United States, perhaps that is part of the motivation. And so that's what the Trump campaign has been trying to say, is that because Biden has been, quote unquote, soft on immigration, it's caused or kind of encouraged more migrants to come. And so by painting a hard line, they're hoping that they discourage migration. Now, that argument only goes to a certain extent because, if the former president was all that interested in decreasing illegal crossings at this point, he wouldn't have torpedoed that bill in the Senate in February. And so there are a lot of, it's politics. You deal with this all the time on campaigns, Marty. It's messaging, it's politics, and it's trying to stake out a position that people see as either tough on immigration or friendly to immigrants, depending on what side you're trying to pander to.
So just stepping away from the immigration question specifically and just looking overall at the campaign and the strategies for both teams. Clearly right now, I would say one of the biggest things I'm noticing is that the Harris campaign is doing everything it can to insulate her from instances where she has to speak off the cuff or where she has to take questions from reporters. Do you expect that the Trump campaign will find a way to ratchet up the pressure on her to put herself in those situations once we get past the Labor Day holiday and things really kick into high gear?
That's very possible. I mean, they've already tried their hardest to push that message, that she's scared to talk to media, that she's scared to talk to crowds that aren't friendly to her. I mean, she's doing her first sit-down interview because she became the nominee tomorrow on CNN with Dana Bash, but it'll be a kind of a co-interview with her and with Governor Walz, kind of side by side. And that's already, I mean, the Trump campaign sent out a blast this afternoon accusing her of being scared of sitting down by herself. What I'm more interested in, though, Marty, is not what's coming from the Trump campaign, but what's coming from the media. At the DNC last week, there were a lot of very disgruntled media members saying that they wish they were getting more access and better access to the candidates. And while a lot of Americans are paying attention to what the Trump campaign is saying, a lot of Americans are also paying attention to what legacy media is saying. And so far, the legacy media has been very friendly to Vice President Harris, and that tide might be shifting if she continues to kind of stiff-arm them or block them off from the access that the media typically would get to the, one of the major party candidates.
I think the public's becoming a little more in tune to that. I think as you went through the Biden removal from the ticket, that was really eye-opening for a lot of people to say, well, I've always heard that the national media sort of favors the Democrats, but it seems like it became evident for a lot of folks. And I wonder how that will ultimately play into the final vote count when we get to November, if people have said, you were really friendly to the vice president, and I saw through it, and if that it could hurt her that she's getting such friendly treatment in some way.
It's very possible. I mean, I was in Arizona 2 weeks ago speaking to voters on the ground there, and this is before the DNC, but about 2.5 weeks after Biden steps down and endorses Harris. And a lot of, independent voters that perhaps were leaning to the left were saying that they didn't really know at this point who they would vote for because they didn't know who they could trust. Trump is the devil you know or the devil you don't, they said to me, essentially. They know who Trump is. They know what he stands for. But there are still so many question marks about Vice President Harris's policy and her platform and what this Democratic Party operation is becoming. So that's a good question.
Well, there will be plenty of action between now and Election Day and a lot of political chess trying to move people into bad positions and put yourself in a good position to win. And Sam, you're going to get a front row seat to a lot of it. Sam Benson from the Deseret News, thanks for being our guest. And thanks for having me along today to sit in for Boyd. This has been Inside Sources. I'm Marty Carpenter.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. We're at 86 in Salt Lake City. KSL's top story, Governor Spencer Cox is facing criticism for his Monday visit to Arlington with former President Trump.
This is after it was reported that there was some sort of scuffle between former President Trump's team and the staff at the National Cemetery. That was about an official rule against campaigning at the cemetery.